Thanks, man. Thanks. Over the last 10 years, you've heard Carl up on this stage and other stage talking about this map. He's been talking about the future. And it's always come back to one thing. His message has always been very consistent. The device-enabled subscriber is going to blanket your networks with applications, demand more and more every single day. They're going to require you to go to a 24/7 operation. And every single day that goes by, as he spoke about yesterday, they're going to talk about operating costs and how do you reduce those so that you can be successful in the long term. In all of these scenarios, Carl has always been consistent. And the theme in this convention, which we've talked about multiple times, is that was what we were talking about in the future and how we were going to project to get to a better place. And now we're going to, let's make it happen, let's make it real. And the reality is, from an innovation and a competition point of view, we have to make it real because competition never stops. If you didn't hear last week, Comcast said everybody has a gig. If you hear later on today, you're going to hear from City Fiber, and they're going to talk about how they're completely transforming the UK market, how they're creating a software-based access network that provides gigabit fiber to over 5 million people in the environment, allowing companies like Vodafone and others to be wildly successful. You heard from Lee about Verizon. Matt talked about the gains that they're driving with their one network strategy, and that's all around how do we change the game with 5G. And yesterday we talked about the subscriber. We talked about how that home is being invaded. If we don't change the game, move faster, we will not win. And the reality is that the industry doesn't want you to change. The industry loves complexity, because complexity in the networking industry means you pay more money. If they look at it and they say, don't go to one network, stay on a business network, a consumer network, and if you're mobile, stay on a mobile network, because that means you buy 3 times. And then what they do is they say, look, so if you need to fix this, don't actually transform yourself. Do this, buy XGS. Just buy a bigger, dumber pipe. And then they throw out things like, well, XGS, the nice thing is that it's almost the same price as GPON. Who cares? That doesn't change the game. A bigger, fatter pipe isn't solving for the problem that you're running 3 networks. It doesn't solve for the problem that your central office looks like this. It's access, aggregation, a subscriber management BNG system. You have to do lawful intercept, and then you have a PE router. You have 5 different systems that you have to figure out how to cobble them together and make them all work. You have 5 different teams that every day gets up and wrestles with this beast and has 5 different operating procedures, 5 different ways to do it, and at any point in time, one of them's breaking. And then you got to go through and you got to figure out, well, which one of those broke? Which one should I fix? It doesn't solve the problem. So now the industry is going to go to the next step, and what they're starting to do is they're saying, you know what? Okay, complexity, buy a bigger pipe. Yeah, this is a problem, but really the problem is it's hardware costs. So what we're going to do is we're going to do virtualization. We're going to do NFV. I'm going to stand up on this stage and say NFV is bull, because NFV doesn't solve anything. And there's 2 reasons why. The first, no vendor wants to do NFV. No vendor wants to virtualize their software. Why? Because as soon as they virtualize it and you put it on x86, what they're doing is they're giving up their IP and this big fat chunk of hardware revenue that drives their business. The second part of it is NFV is nonsense because it doesn't fix this problem. If you have a virtual edge router and a virtual BNG and virtual aggregation and virtual access and all these different things, you still have to figure out how to make them all work together. It's just that they sit on a VM on a single server. It doesn't solve the problem. And Carl was really clear yesterday. The challenge in the network is not the price of a box. The challenge in the network is not Capex. Yes, we have Capex. We need to figure out how to optimize it and all those things. But the cost in your network is your operating costs. And so then they go to the next step and they say SDN. SDN is fantastic as a universal way to get everybody to connect. But what they've done is they've bastardized SDN. Because what they're doing is they're introducing something called an orchestrator. Some people call it SD access. What is that? That's middleware. That's middleware 5.0. I've been in the computer industry for 30 years, and every single year it's middleware. What is middleware? Middleware, sorry to offend, is lipstick on a pig. All you're doing is you're taking your legacy systems and you're putting something on top of it called an orchestrator. An orchestrator doesn't fix anything. It just hides the fact that your vendors have not done the hard work. They actually haven't changed the underlying systems. They're just trying to hide it with something called SD access, called an orchestrator. It's the same thing that they've been selling you for 20 years. And we say this, we say reject the industry, reject complexity. Embrace simplification. Embrace one network. Change for the long term. We say embrace operational simplicity. Don't have 5 teams fighting all together. Make them one team. And then the last thing we say, embrace new business models. The reality is, the reason why our systems from yesterday that we talked about is not at Best Buy, the reason why the systems that we're doing with you are not anywhere else is because we believe in you. You are the only vendor or the only industry that we work with. We don't go out to other markets. We're not trying to expand that way. We believe you can win. But the only way you win is through simpler business models. And what does simplification look like? Well, to start, it looks like this. One network. Collapse that network. Not just a fatter, bigger, dumber pipe. One network. And that network becomes powerful with this. AXOS. An operating system that we re-architected over the last 8 years with the smartest people in the industry. We invested over $600 million building it. And that system can go anywhere in your network outside of the data center. It can sit in a CO, it can sit in a hardened cabinet, or it can go up on a pole. It doesn't matter. It's all the same software, so you can decide what's the right place to put an application. And last year, we started a big thing. We started to collapse the CO. And the first step, subscriber management. The BNG. Don't buy a BNG. Buy subscriber management. Integrated into a single platform. Now you've got your access and aggregation team and your BNG team, subscriber team, operating as one unit. We announced Layer 2, Layer 3. And today, Michelle's going to come up and talk about the next big announcement. And that's where we start taking functions from the PE router, subscriber functions like MPLS and VPN, and collapse them into the network. Don't have other systems. Reject 5 systems, get to 1. And now I know we have a wide range of customers in here. We have everyone from Verizon to companies who have 2,000 subscribers. And they always say the same thing to me. Yeah, that's Verizon. It's really great that they're doing all those kind of things, but I'm just a small company. You built it for Verizon. I am going to say this on this stage for the last time, and I want every single person in this room to listen really carefully who's a small customer. AXOS went to 100 companies in this room way before Verizon deployed their very first system. We built AXOS for our small customers, and we scale up. And if you don't believe that business model works, look at Salesforce, where I came from. Spent 4 years there. Why is Salesforce crushing all of their competition? Well, I'll tell you why they're crushing SAP. SAP started at the enterprise, built a big monster system, and tried to scale it down. Scale down never works. Salesforce built it for the small business and scaled up, and they're destroying everybody. We did the same thing. In this room, companies like City of Sandy can deploy the same technology at Verizon. This is a revolution. Usually you have to wait till it cascades down to you. Now, you did it before Verizon. It came out with GFast. And whether you're deploying one system or you're like Verizon and deploying thousands of systems, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And for the people in this room who continue to doubt, I'm going to put the nail in the coffin one more time with one other story, and that's GLDS. Great Lakes Data Systems supports small companies. 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, right? They're not running Verizon, 100,000 subscribers. GLDS was one of the first companies who introduced AXOS, again, on GFast, And the first time they did it, 4 months. That was their first integration. Traditionally, an integration like that would take 18 months or longer, 4 months. Then they did the E9-2, 4 weeks. A couple weeks ago, they did the E7-2, days. So Verizon said, I did this in 2 years, and now I can do it with the XOS in 3 months. GLDS is doing it in days. That is changing your business. That's the opportunity that every single person in this room has. And if you don't think that we understand the challenges with this, because yeah, it's great on Greenfield, but how do you actually take my legacy systems over time and how do I succeed over the long term? Understand that we continue to change. Our services organization is focused on fixing this problem. Please talk to them on the other side. The first is the XOS enablement services, so very focused on how you transform your network. Take the next couple years and make that transformation. We'll help you map it out. The second is training. I have personally pushed into our budgets 4 times the amount of investment in content to create amazing training so that you in this room can learn how to do it. Regardless of if it's going to take you a year or 10 years, we're going to teach you how. And then last, we're going to build new services that help you change everything. And I'm going to tell you one service you should go see the demo of. It's called Remote Monitoring and Notification. We rolled it with our first customer, and it allows us to monitor your network and then give you great best practice feedback and interaction changes and all those kind of things. And with that service, we help them reduce their alarms and change their processes by 85% in 2 weeks. It's a new world, and we're here to help.